is Christina from Tribe Yoga. Today I'm going to be talking to you about strengthening the wrists. In yoga, we use our wrists a lot, whether we're in downward facing dog or tabletop pose. A lot of those poses require that we put weight into our hands and our wrists. So if you are experiencing any sort of wrist issues, wrist pain, or maybe your job requires you to be typing a lot at a computer, and so the tops of the wrists can be really tender. Yoga, bringing that into your yoga practice can be very challenging with sore wrists particularly. So today we're going to work on ways to strengthen the wrists and the forearms so that when you are moving into your yoga practice, those wrists can be nice and strong and help support you in all of those poses. So you won't need any special equipment for these poses. You just need your hands, maybe a yoga mat, maybe a blanket to support the knees. But we're going to start seated. So first off, just bending one of your knees. We'll start on the right side. So bend your right knee, and we're going to use it as a little bit of a platform for our right wrist. We're going to begin by bringing our wrist into wrist extension. And we see this a lot in our downward facing dog and other weight-bearing poses on our hands. So it's very important to begin to engage and strengthen these little muscles right here along the tops of the wrist. So by bringing and working our wrist in this way, we can begin to engage and fire up those muscles to help support us. So starting here, just with a relaxed hand, I'll turn a little bit so you can see the direction of my fingers. And then we're going to begin to engage this part of our hand. You can use your other hand, your left hand, to support. So bringing the fingers together, and just go ahead and flex those fingertips right up to the sky, and then drop them down. And keep going here. Pressing the palm outward. That was 2, 3, move slowly, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's pause here. Keep pressing the palm outward, really flexing those fingertips back towards you in the opposite direction. And here, just engaging, you probably feel it right there in the wrist. Now, if this isn't feeling good, maybe don't hold it as long, but working up to that strength. In the beginning, everything is gonna feel kind of like, I don't wanna do this, but keep going, keep strengthening. The more that you do these exercises, the stronger you'll be. All right, so we're gonna switch directions here with the palms. So same side, right side, flip your palm up to the sky, and here, just let it relax. And we're going to bring our wrist into flexion. So again, getting into the inside part of the wrist, just let the palm hang open, and then steadying your arm with the other hand. From here, we're going to lift the fingertips up, and it's like you're trying to point your fingertips back towards your face, right? Drop the fingertips down, and again, flex the wrist. That was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Pausing here, really pressing those fingertips back, and this part of the wrist is getting that stretch. Make sure that you're kind of doing this on your own so nobody is like, hey, are you calling me over? What's happening here? One more breath. And go ahead and release. Shake it out a little bit. Sometimes a little massage can help some weirdness there, and even up the entire length of the forearm. All right, let's move to the other side. So same thing, we're gonna bend into that left knee for a little bit of a platform for our left arm, and let's just let that left fingertips or left wrist be relaxed here. And moving that wrist into extension, you can use your left or right hand here for a little help and support. And then when you're ready, you can begin. So lifting the fingertips up, and again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Pausing here, fingertips facing up to the sky, really trying to press the back of the hand towards you. And then release, let it go. Go ahead and roll out the wrist a little bit, massage it out. And we'll do the same side again, this time in flexion. So let the palm be facing up, fingertips down to the floor. Steady the arm with your right hand, and then begin to flex the fingertips towards you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Pause here, really pressing the fingertips towards you to stretch out this part of the wrist. And release, let it go, roll it out a little bit. And this next one is pretty powerful. And initially it seems like, what are we doing here? But the more that you practice this one, the more you'll feel it. And so let's just do it. So what we're gonna do is extend our arms forward and bring our hands into some fists. So really nice, strong fists here. And extending those arms, we're not lazy here, we're nice and strong. And then begin to flare the fingertips out. So jazz hands here, really spreading those fingers away from each other. And then again, back into those little fists and keep going. So we're just simply opening and closing the hands. But when we do so, we're really spreading those fingers wide. And then when we bring them back in, really clenching those fists, okay? And then begin to move a little bit more quickly. The same engagement through those fingers, and go a little bit faster, faster, faster. And pretty soon, you feel it. You feel it in those forearms. Keep going, keep going. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh my goodness, so I can feel it a lot in here and this part of my forearm. Hopefully you like that one. That's a great one to practice, and you can do that anywhere. You can be like standing in line or wherever it is and just kind of do this, and people will look at you kind of strangely, but that's okay. Maybe that's what you need. We're gonna come all the way back to seated and just shake out those arms a little bit. All right, so for our next one, we're going to take our right hand and just bring the palm up to the sky. Fold your thumb in towards the center of the palm, and then wrap those fingers all the way around those, so you're hiding the thumb essentially. Then turn your side of the arm facing up, the thumb side of your arm is facing up. Use your other hand, your left hand here, to gently press down. So here, feeling it along the front of the wrist. It doesn't take much to stretch out that area. Another thing you could do here is actually bring it onto the ground and drive it down, but I like to be able to control it with my hand. I'll just take a few deep breaths here. Stretching out this muscle, this long skinny muscle. And release, shake it out. That thumb's probably like, what's going on here? So maybe a little bit of this action here. Same thing on this side. So left palm facing up, turn the thumb inward, wrap those fingers around, and then turn this side of the arm up so the thumb side is facing up to the sky. Right hand again, we're going to press down, so we're stretching out the front of the side of our arm. And while you're doing these exercises, be aware of the rest of the body too. So we're not clenching the jaw or creeping the shoulders up into the ears. Stay relaxed through the rest of the body. And then take a few more deep breaths here. And release, shake it out a little bit. Flashlight on this side. Good. And then we're going to take those palms together. And we do this a lot in our yoga class, particularly at the end when we are saying namaste. But we're pressing those palms together, and here we're being a little bit more active with the arms. So lift the elbows gently upward. Shoulders are relaxed out of the ears, sitting up tall. And from here, begin to turn your fingertips forward and point them down. And circle them back up again. And maybe point them towards your heart. And then back, down, and around again. And this is really nice to help stretch out the wrists. But we're not putting weight. We're not here with the hands, right? We're here and we have full control over how deeply we would like to press here. Taking one more breath. And release, shake it out. So opposite direction, we brought our wrists into extension. Now flexion, bring the backs of the hands together. Same thing on this side. Pressing inward through the forearms. This time we're going to drop the forearm or the elbows down a little bit. And keep pressing. And keep that activation as you circle the fingertips up and down. Turn the fingertips forward. Just getting some mobility in the wrists as well. As we put some pressure on the backs of the hands. Beautiful. Come back through center, shake out the wrists. Moving into manual flexion. So we're going to take our left hand down, fingertips facing down. Right hand comes on top. So use your right hand to press into the top of the left hand, and then at the same time we're going to take the left hand and press into the right palm. So there's this little push and pull here, and then once you come to horizontal, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So drop your right fingertips down, use your left hand to press into the top of the right hand, and at the same time using the back of the right hand to press until you come to horizontal. So we'll just move through those times. I like to practice this particular manual flexion in between when I'm doing arm balances. This is a nice one to kind of relieve any tension there. From here, we're going to interlace the fingers into two fists, or a single fist rather, and begin to just turn the wrist into a figure 8. Again, bringing some mobility into the wrists. And then reversing it. So we can go in the opposite direction. This one always trips me up. I don't know if I'm even doing it, but anyway. I'm trying. All right, go ahead and shake it out. Coming into a tabletop pose, you might want to have a blanket underneath the knees for a little softness there. And walking those wrists underneath the shoulders. Now, if you are experiencing wrist tenderness or you've had a wrist injury, in tabletop, I invite you to walk your hands, your wrists forward a little bit. So if we were to drop a line from the shoulder straight down, the wrists would be in front of the shoulders. And this can be helpful, particularly if you're still working on strengthening your wrists and they have some tenderness there. I would recommend just making it a little bit easier for yourself and walking those wrists forward. But if you feel okay with the wrists underneath the shoulders, then go ahead and do that. Another thing that you can play around with is your fingers. So sometimes we experience pain right here in the palm, like the base of the thumb. And that happens quite commonly actually when you're starting out yoga, and the downward facing dog can be really uncomfortable. So I would recommend playing around with your fingers. So either spreading them wide, making sure you're distributing the weight of your pose out to the outer ring of the palm and into the fingertips, lifting up the knuckles of each finger and lifting up the center of the palm too. So imagine that you have like a little ladybug there on the floor that you don't want to squish down. So you're kind of lifting up, activating the inner part of that palm so that you're distributing the weight not right directly into the wrist and the base of the thumb, but radiating it outward. All right. Another thing here too is if you're still feeling uncomfortable with the fingertips spreading wide, you can also try bringing your hand into like a little mitt shape, and that can sometimes help with that wrist pain. So play around with that, see what helps you. Another thing that you can do is either roll your mat. This can be a little problematic to set up during class when you're flowing or moving, but bringing the edge of a blanket right underneath the wrist, that can help. Another thing you can do is actually roll up the top of your mat and do the same with that. Okay, so those are just a couple of things that you can do when you are in an active practice to help with your wrist pain. But coming back to the actual strengthening of the wrists, I'm going to come into that tabletop pose. And just from here, just in your tabletop pose, begin to shift forward and back. And notice where your shoulders go. So the more that they extend beyond the wrist, you begin to feel it right here. Just working that, stretching it out. I'm going to do a couple more of those, just sliding the heart forward and back. Coming back to neutral, turning your fingertips out to face the outer edges of your mat. And from here, we'll just simply sway from side to side. So same thing, but we're engaging different muscle groups in the arms. And you can even take this into a little circle, getting used to putting more weight on those wrists. And then reversing that of opposite direction. Beautiful. And come back to neutral. Take your fingertips and turn them to face your knees so that this part of the forearm is facing outward. And same as before, we're just going to simply shift forward and back. See if you can keep the base of the palm actively pressing down into the floor. When you start to begin to peel off, that means that we need to shift forward a little bit more. So just finding your own range of motion here. Sliding forward and back. Good. Come back through neutral. Flip the tops of your hands down towards the floor. The fingertips are still facing the knees. And same thing, forward and back. This is called palmar flexion. Just getting those wrists used to having a little bit more weight in them. You don't have to put a huge amount of weight in them. If this is really excruciating, you can walk your knees up and sit back a little bit. Take some of that pressure off. And then as you grow stronger in your practice, you can begin to inch those knees back and finally put a little bit more weight into those wrists. And slowly we'll peel off those wrists, come off of the fingertips. Go ahead and come back into that figure 8. Massaging out the forearms a little bit. Turn those hands in different directions. So with consistency and dedication, we can begin to build that strength in the wrists and hopefully provide a little bit more comfort in your yoga practice overall. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.